circumstances in which we're most uncomfortable reveal what's on the inside of us. And it's in times of crisis like COVID-19 that we can succumb to the fear and the chaos, and we can spiral downward in our negative thoughts and emotions, or we can decide to take pause in the turbulence, lean in, and open to the valuable wisdom that's available to us. If we'll resist giving in to anxiety and panic and hiding out and distracting ourselves during this time to try to merely survive, and instead we'll view this uncertain season as a time of rest, recovery, and reevaluation, we offer ourselves an opportunity to grow and transform in very powerful ways. Today, I want to share with you the second of 4 life-changing lessons that I've learned from the COVID-19 crisis so that you too can allow this season to transform you and your life for the better. The second life-changing lesson I've learned is this: fear runs us, but love heals us. It's so evident, especially over the past few weeks, that just how much fear drives us, individually and as a society. Fear activates a compulsion inside of us to try to do enough, to have enough, so that we can feel like we are enough, as we're in search for our sense of significance and value. Fear also motivates us to strive and hustle in fervent pursuit of creating our own success and prosperity. It also drives us to perform and to control in an attempt to create security and certainty in our lives. And our need and our desire for value and significance, success, prosperity, security, and certainty are all very valid. And they're actually wired in us by God. Yet when our pursuit of them is driven by our fear of not having them, the result is always the same. No matter how much we achieve, accumulate, or attain, we end up feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, anxious, frustrated, unfulfilled, and often even burned out. We can never be or do enough to quench our thirst for significance or value. And we can't achieve or attain enough to fill our ache for certainty and security. When fear is our motivator, it always drives us right into bondage, a prison of our own making. We were made with a God-sized hole in our hearts, and our question of worth, value, and significance can only be answered by who we are in Him. When and only when we know deep inside that we're loved and cared for by Him daily, in every area, in every detail of our lives, will we ever begin to feel significant, secure, prosperous, or fulfilled. So I encourage you and challenge you to examine how fear is driving you right now in your life. Notice how fear, though it may feel motivating, is actually propelling you into greater bondage. Decide today that instead of continuing to be run by fear, you're going to allow that deep yearning inside to drive you to the heart of God, who calls you His beloved child and who wants to offer you anything and everything you could ever want or need in abundance. 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love." And this Bible truth just confirms that we only feel and are run by our fear when we don't have a clear understanding of God's perfect love for us. Yet when we're willing to stand up to fear and no longer allow or enable it or allow it to manipulate every one of our thoughts and emotions and actions in our lives, and instead be led by our fear to the perfect love of our Creator, then our fear will be drowned out by His overwhelming love that rises up inside of us. And as we seek His presence and His Spirit comes alive in us, then we're filled up from the inside out. And that's when the transformation happens. We're transformed by His love. It's then that the powerful shift in our hearts and our minds occurs. And then we're free to live from our significance instead of trying so hard to live for our significance. And we can live certain and secure in His generous, faithful provision instead of striving and struggling to create a false sense of our own. And when we enjoy the prosperity that naturally follows being fueled by our passion and living out of our unique purpose, because experiencing the fullness of His love will gently guide us back to our own hearts. And then that's when life really starts to come alive. When we live in harmony with his heart and and with our own hearts, we can live bravely, freely, and authentically as our best and our happiest self and thrive in the life of freedom and fullness that he intended for us. And we can wholeheartedly trust that his love for us never wavers and it never fails us, and his supply of goodness and abundance never runs out. So will you choose to spend time earnestly seeking his presence? And do the discipline and spend the time allowing his fear to drown out your fear? His love, to drown out your fear. Lean into this season, friends. Be open to learning and growing. Allow this time to shift your thinking and expand your awareness and transform your being. There's always beauty in the pain. There are always lessons in the struggle. And there's always much to be grateful for in all of it. Times of crisis change us. Let this time transform you from the inside out so that your life is never the same. Let it be better than you can ever imagine. And stay tuned next week for the third of 4 life-transforming lessons that I've learned from the COVID-19 crisis. And until then, be well.